Hello there folks, I'm the Lon Chaney Reviewer, and welcome to Silent Film Saturday, episode number 11. Today's film that I'm talking about deals with destiny, heartbreak, and romance. This film, my friends, is Charles Chaplin's 1923 masterpiece, A Woman of Paris. Before I go into any greater detail on the plot, let's check out this double disc packaging. Okay, so before I begin, I just want to say I reviewed one of the films in this package already, A King of New York, on Silent Links. You can check that out in my Silent Links playlist, which I will have in the description below. And this is an interesting set because it takes an earlier piece of Chaplin with one of Chaplin's last films, actually his penultimate film, and puts them into the same DVD. Now, I don't know if this was because MK2 didn't know if either one of these films would be popular as a single disc alone, or I guess, most people don't know these films. Even if you are looking into Chaplin, you might not have heard of these films sometimes. And let's take the reverse end of this. Let's take a look at the reverse end of this package. All right, it has the running times and all that stuff. It has like the 12 minutes about the Chaplin collection, trailers, photo galleries. For A King of New York, there's a mandolin serenade, and it's one of the film's main musical themes, and it shows Chaplin conducting the orchestra. There's 14 deleted scenes, Chaplin Today for A King of New York, and introduction by David Robinson, which is very insightful. And some of these replicate onto Woman of Paris, except obviously it applies to that film because it has the Chaplin collection, trailers, posters, photo gallery. 1926 Camille, and it's a movie made by Ralph Barton, and there are a lot of, known personalities in the film. Paris in the 20s, and really just images of Paris in the 20s. The signing of the United Artists contract, because A Woman of Paris was the first Chaplin film made under United Artists. Deleted shots, Chaplin Today documentary Woman of Paris, and the incredibly insightful introduction by David Robinson. The inception of this film is rather fascinating because, Chaplin had wanted to direct a strictly dramatic piece for a very long time, and he'd also wanted to make a star vehicle for Edna Purviance, that way she could have her own acting career without the little tramp at her side. Also, this resulted from some of Chaplin's affairs, learning of stories of men killing themselves for their lovers, and all this fascinating information that you can learn from the DVD, or just by looking it up, of course. The plot of the film is rather simple when you first look at it, but actually, at the time in 1923, you could see why it was being praised and hailed as one of the finest accomplishments of the silent era. You have two lovers, Jean Millet and Edna Purviance's character, Maurice St. Clair, who are star-crossed lovers in the sense that their parents do not want them to be together. Edna Purviance's stepfather in the film just hates her very much and locks the door on her, stating that maybe your friend can supply you a bed. So they go to Jean's house, and Jean's father tells him to leave get out, I don't want you involved with this lady. And destiny sort of happens because after a series of events, the two lovers are separated, and you have Marie St. Clair going on a train to Paris. Sometime later, she is a courtesan for Pierre Revel, played by Adolphe Menjou, and she's very sophisticated, and she has not seen Jean in a long time. By fate, she sees Jean and accidentally goes to a studio, and they meet again and bring up feelings. One of the coolest elements of the film is the performances. Chaplin, as a comedic performer, had noticed that in real life, people express emotions in weird ways. They don't actually express them in front of other people. They try to hide and mask their emotions. And that's the acting style that's portrayed in A Woman of Paris. Whenever you see Jean or Marie in the same scene together, they're not really expressing that they want to see each other, expressing just, okay, we just know each other. What's really interesting about this film is the fact that Adolphe Menjou's character of Pierre Revel, which I just love that name, Pierre Revel, he is the most likable character in this movie. I know that may seem kind of strange, but it took me some viewings to realize that he is really a likable character. And not because, look, he's a jerk, and he's, he intentionally does things, but at the end of the day, he's the most honest character to himself. For example, you have the characters of Marie St. Clair and Jean Millet, and whenever they discuss, they never bring up their feelings, or at best, very rarely bring up their true feelings. Whereas Pierre Revel, he's very honest with himself, and yeah, he does lie about a few things, but at the end of the day, he is the most likable because he's the most truthful to himself. And he knows what type of person he is, and he accepts that. Now, other characters in the film, like the parents of Jean Millet, the father is almost the villain. Like, you almost view the parental figures in this movie as the bad guys. Especially Marie's stepfather, who locks her out of the house, and at one point locks her in her own room before she runs out of the house. And it would be so typical for the parents to be patronly figures, especially in pre-1923 cinema. But in this movie, it changes those actions and makes the parents into the most despicable human beings. Well, not necessarily the most despicable human beings, but very unlikable characters. Also, when you look at the character Marie St. Clair, she's a courtesan, she's a prostitute. She knows what she is, but is she entirely okay with that? Well, yes and no. She's okay with the fact that she has this luxury, but at the same time, she wishes she could have some sort of family life, a marriage, something real. I think it was Jean Millet, who in the average film would be the hero, and he'd be like saving the day and everything, but at the end of the day, he's a weakling. He's dominated by the feelings of his mother. He's almost like a pre-Norman Bates mother-obsessed character, when you really come down to it. And for me, he's my least favorite character in the film. And the actor who plays Jean Millet does a very good job at conveying that idea that this character, yes, in the typical melodrama, you want the two lovers together, but at the same time, do we really know if they would be happy together? Because so much has changed between them. And it almost seemed like at the beginning of the film, they almost really didn't know each other that well. At least we didn't, as an audience, didn't know them that well. But now that we look at the film, now we look at their scenarios that they've gone through, Jean Millet's father's death and Marie becoming a courtesan for Pierre Revel, do you think they would really be able to have a decent relationship after that? We don't know. And I really enjoy that, the ambiguity of these characters. Now, at the end of the film, spoiler alert, Jean Millet kills himself. He commits suicide, and you can expect it, but at the same time, it's kind of tragic and ironic because in a typical film like this, you would think, oh, maybe, just maybe they would be together, but they don't end up together. He shoots himself in public, and Marie is horrified at her actions. And that's really one of the few times she shows any genuine emotion in the film. Yeah, and Edna Providence's performance is great. I forgot to mention that her performance is really outstanding just on her own. And this film really proves that she could have had a career without the little tramp at her side, but that just really didn't happen. Although she was kept on the studio payroll until her death in the 50s. It was either that or Chaplin's exile. I'm not sure which. And she does appear in Monsieur Verdoux as one of the guests at the wedding. And she was originally supposed to play Madame Gronet, but Chaplin didn't think she tested well. But I think she almost would have been almost a perfect choice to play Madame Gronet in a sense. I don't know, that's just me. This film also has the last completed work of Chaplin. Chaplin wrote a musical score for this film that is now in all releases of the movie. And that was his last work in his several decade career. In terms of comparing this to Chaplin's other films, you have to realize, other than maybe Limelight, this is Chaplin's only straight-up dramatic film. There are some comic moments here and there, and there is an uncharacteristic use of title cards as jokes. Chaplin usually did not use title cards for jokes. I don't know. It just makes me think of Harold Lloyd, because Harold Lloyd liked doing that. But when you're comparing this film's in between The Kid and The Gold Rush. This film ultimately changed the way Chaplin thought of himself as a filmmaker. Yes, Chaplin made comedies after that, but look at the films Chaplin made after A Woman to Paris. He made The Gold Rush, he made The Circus, City Lights, Modern Times, The Great Dictator, Monsieur Verdoux, Limelight, King of New York, and Countess from Hong Kong, where there's all dramatic elements in those films. And there were dramatic elements in his previous works, and especially in The Kid, but I feel in A Woman to Paris, the way the critics reacted to him, he treated himself more as a genius, more as an artist, as his films went on, which I remember reading in one of my followers' blog posts about Buster Keaton and Chaplin, an interview in Buster Keaton's autobiography, that he was talking about that Chaplin really took himself too seriously as an artist after A Woman of Paris, and that was really his trouble. And that's debatable, depending on what type of comedy or what type of film you like. That's really a subjective opinion, and I'm not trying to criticize Keaton's opinion, but I'm just defending my own and stating A Woman of Paris was a really good decision for Chaplin in some ways. Maybe not in terms of economics, but in terms of his filmmaking. That he could take himself seriously as a filmmaker and tackle certain things, and who knows, maybe tackle certain issues. So, A Woman of Paris, while it's not City Lights or The Great Dictator for me, it's still one of Chaplin's, if not the most unique accomplishment in his career. A strictly dramatic piece that flips melodramatic conventions to Chaplin's advantage. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the Douglas Fairbanks film from 1926, The Black Pirate. I'll see you guys next week on Silent Film Saturday.